throughout Macworld asking how they could get it. I bought this place 10 years ago, and what does a nerd do when they buy a farm and they have a barn? Well, we raise pigs, but you fill it with old computers, of course. Welcome to DigiBarn. I call this project a memory palace for nerds. And why is that? Well, when nerds come, they walk through the barn and they see a computer that they grew up with, and suddenly all these stories pour out of them. Let's take a look at some of the machines that came before the Mac, and particularly, let's take a look at this guy. This is the Altair 8800, and it's a big metal box. These boards, you had to sort of solder them together yourself. So this is definitely not a user-friendly machine. This is the IBM PC. It was launched in 1981 by IBM, and it's your office computer. This also didn't give people very much of a warm, fuzzy feeling. Jump forward into the future, into 1984, and here's another machine called the Macintosh. It's the machine for creative people.
It was just a little more than a year ago that a Macintosh was still something you gave to your teacher. But today there are hundreds of thousands of Macintosh computer owners. Is the Macintosh the computer for the rest of us? And who are the rest of us?
It's more sophisticated, yet less complicated. It's more powerful, yet less cumbersome. It can store vast amounts of yesterday. Macintosh, the computer for the rest of us.
The whole point of the machine was to make it not only extremely powerful and useful, but also extremely easy to use.
1981 was the genesis year of the Mac project really getting funded, and that's when I joined the project. I'm Daniel Kotke. I was fortunate to have been a friend of Steve Jobs in college, and that's how I got to be the first employee at Apple. Apple quickly got into the fun aspect of technology, and one of the core things about the Mac was graphics, and what you see is what you get. That was the big revolution. The idea came up that we all wanted a computer that you could take to bed with you.
In the short history of personal computing, there has never been such a dazzling campaign. In less than a year, the Macintosh was transformed into an instant myth, using pictures instead of words.
In the early days, the only people who were using personal computers were hobbyists. They had to build them themselves. Apple was one of the first companies to actually build a pre-packaged product. There was a sense of sort of techno-utopia. People were getting together, they were going to change the world through technology. The Macintosh was the anti-IBM, the anti-the man, the big brother. And the kind of people who were attracted to that, you know, to making their own computers, were the kind of people who wanted to change the world.
That's the great part of working on a revolution, right? You think you're changing the world, and I think we did change the world. We believed in one person, one computer, controlling his or her own destiny. We positioned IBM as one big company who wanted to control the destiny of everyone. We really believed that this computer, because it was easier to use and still powerful, it would enable a whole different class of people to use computers.
We also talked about how society was going to be revamped. I wanted to use my skills as a computer designer to help the world get to this new, better place. And these were kind of crazy dreams a little bit, but boy, did they drive us on. I wanted to be a part of that. That was my real reason for building this computer. We had to do it. We had to start Apple.
Apple always considered itself a revolutionary force fighting a battle against the empire. It was the force that was fighting against the beige banality of the IBM PC and the office computer.
The whole idea of creating the future really became clear to me that this was something that we could do here. Well, you know, it came out that little box back in '84. It was a big sensation, and everyone said, "Man, the Mac, and this thing is like made by stoners for stoners."
You know, you can't be a part of Apple, you can't be involved in Apple, you can't be constantly paying attention to Apple without absorbing a great deal of what they profess to be their basic strategy, their basic philosophy.
The people at Apple themselves were very non-traditional. these people put out their own advertising campaign for their own product, and the people who resonated with it were the ones who got involved.
The Macintosh community had really grown up around this concept of being different. That, you know, the IBM PC and then later on Microsoft Windows was what everyone else did. And so Mac users, we banded together because there weren't very many of us.
It was more like a survival mechanism, like those penguins were huddled together. You got to press tightly together and exclude all outsiders to share whatever body warmth you can manage.
Mac community had this idea that they were using something special. You ended up with this movement, really a social movement around the computer.
The Mac came not just with a machine in a box, it came with a whole community. We were tremendously excited about discovering together this extraordinary tool, this collaborative tool that would let us do what had been in our dreams for years.
Creative community, audio, video, graphics, those people use Macs because it's the overall vision. Computers were for numbers and for databases and, you know, kind of accounting things. And so suddenly this whole creative community was brought to the computers, and really with the Macintosh just adopted it instantly, and to this day really, really uses it.
I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. I have a BA in advertising. Right now we're looking at my Mac museum. You know, each computer, each piece has its own story. That's part of the reason that I kept and I didn't sell any of my systems. Everybody that will work with us, you know, ad agencies, designers, everybody's on the Mac, and they appreciate like the museum that we put together. So they spend more time looking at the computer instead of bugging me and telling me what to do.
My name is Michael Eldred, but everybody calls me Count, and I'm a producer and engineer of music and make noises. I work with DJ Shadow on remixes with Radiohead, Velvet Underground, Frank Sinatra. I was all about learning the Mac because after about 2 seconds of looking through the manual, I was like, this makes perfect sense. And all the other stuff didn't make sense to me.
I mean, only Mac people really put stickers all over their laptops. And I think it's indicative that this is kind of something that's close to me, like my clothing, and it's an identification. It really took the computer away from just being a business application to being something that was personal and was mine.
You explain to them that it makes more sense to buy a new computer, but some people are just very attached to what they have.
Yellow ticket 67.
We actually call it triage because we're trying to, can we fix it right now, or we have to keep it? Is it worth fixing? So yeah, it is. I think more like a vet's office because it's the way people hold their computers.
The great thing about the Mac is that you can completely customize it to the types of uses that you want, and it sort of like colors your worldview in a way, or it's like, okay, I can self-individuate my computer experience in a way that has meaning to me.
If you want to call it technology, I mean, the people who first invented metal swords had a great reverence for their artifacts, right? Any kind of tool that man has ever made that is useful and integral to your life, you're going to have a connection to it. So I just think the Mac falls into that category.
No one's fallen in love with their Taurus, right? There's not Taurus user groups and, oh my God, we love Taurus. People have come to consider a Macintosh as an extension of themselves. That's just the way it is. I mean, that's what a cult product does.
We all want something to believe in, you know, whether it's a religion, a country, it happens to be a company in this respect. People want to believe in Apple, the company. They think that Steve Jobs is their best friend, that he's making stuff personally for them. I think it's the beauty of Apple, is that they can make products that you immediately fall in love with, and therefore, by extension, you fall in love with the company. And you think the company's making those products just for you, you know, and that's great, but don't